Object recognition is really the cornerstone of almost every AI technology involved in the security field you're going to encounter today. You may also hear it referred to as computer vision, but simply put, object recognition is the ability for the camera or a sensor to actually identify certain objects and therefore specific conditions, which in the past only a human observer had the ability to do. Lastly, it should be noted that object recognition is by no means an untested technology. In fact, object recognition is the key technology used for many current self-driving systems, as you can see here. This is a direct feed from a vehicle, and as you notice, the vehicle knows what lanes it's in. It's IDing the lanes, it's IDing other vehicles, road signs, and even pedestrians alike. Now, I just want to note that self-driving and other analytics based on object recognition are by no means invaluable and should not be looked at as some sort of magic bullet that does not require oversight. They should be looked at as tools, which if used correctly can greatly enhance a user's site awareness and can potentially bring vast new functionalities to video surveillance systems, chiefly to navigate that ocean of data we were talking about earlier. And one of the ways object recognition could reduce this data is by being very specific on the scenarios it acts upon or even records. For example, since the AI-enabled cameras using object recognition have the capability of identifying a human versus a non-human, they can also track that object's path that they're interested in. Thus, one could set up a scenario like the one here, where if a human is identified going down the wrong path, an alarm could be triggered, notifying a guard to intervene automatically. Or an automation could be triggered, such as an audio alarm going off immediately only if that scenario plays out in the scene to notify everybody in the lobby. The same principle can easily be applied to vehicles, as like in the prior example, the analytics in this case only cares about vehicles and their direction, and will only be triggered when it's detecting a vehicle going up the wrong path in this case. Again, it's important to understand that, again, nothing would be triggered if a person were to walk up this ramp in this scenario, because in this configuration, the object recognition doesn't care about people. It only cares about vehicles. So it actually understands context in this scenario. And here's another example of a staple analytic of the past, line cross detection, being completely transformed by object recognition, as nothing would trigger the analytic in this case other than a human crossing the line. If an animal were to jump that fence or cross that barrier, nothing would trigger. If a shadow from a tree were to cross that line back and forth, nothing would trigger. As you can see, object recognition has a way of really reducing false alarms. Now, I don't know about you, but for me, if I get 50 alarms or notifications a day that end up just being useless, that would make me reach for the off button really quick. But beyond just tracking people, vehicles, and the reduction of false alarms, there's another side to the AI capabilities that are powered by object recognition, which are exceedingly powerful. And that is their capability to passively learn on their own, just from examples that they see at your site day by day, or to be trained by you on specific things that are important to you and maybe no one else. Now, here's an example of passive learning, in which the camera will learn the scene purely on its own and will go off when something in that scene has changed. As in this example here, where the individual takes an item off the shelf. And before moving further, be advised it doesn't have to be just an object taken. It could be an object left behind, a door left open in an area that it should be closed. If the scene changes in a designated area, it will trigger the analytic and potentially start an automation or a rule that you have set in the system. But now let's say you have a very unique scenario or a unique item that can only be found at your site and no place else. Well, some manufacturers, like iPro in this case, even provide you the capability to train your own object recognition analytic. And in this example, this is the exact scenario we're going to review. Because as you can see, there's a designated area in which only individuals wearing a certain safety vest can go into without triggering the analytic. So at first, the individual in black triggers the analytic because he goes in that area without wearing this vest. Since the vest is unique, the operator has to teach the analytic to recognize it. This is done via the ICT tool or the iPro camera tool, and essentially involves providing the analytic with examples of the vest and what it looks like being worn from all different angles. Essentially, the more examples you provide the analytic, the better it'll perform. And once it learns the vest, the individual wearing it can go into that designated area, all without triggering the event, like you see here. Last of all is another important note, which is that object recognition does not have to be limited to just physical objects, as many manufacturers, again like iPro in this case, have built-in sound profiles, which the camera can recognize as long as there's an external mic being able to listen in. These sound profiles are things such as gunshots, glass breaks, yelling, car horns, and more. And beyond that, there are an ever-growing list of third-party analytics providers that can, again, run directly off the power and capabilities of these cameras alone. And these parties do unique tasks such as visual weapons detection, to license plate recognition, to even fire and flood or smoke detection.